Hey Internet, I'm Chaz.
I'm Dan. Welcome to Wine and Serious Business, episode 136. We're on a roll with great guests lately. We've got Ewald Moseler back to talk about some German wines from the Mosel River, right nearby his hometown. So,
right from my hometown.
Yeah. Right in the hills behind it. So,
Yeah.
why don't you tell us a little bit about the wines of Zeltingen?
Yeah, I brought my four favorite wines or estates. I have to say basically one estate where I have two wines here today. From one estate, two wines from Selbach, and then we have Ackermann and Pazen. Selbach is a very well-known estate in Zeltingen all over Germany, basically all over the world. I think Selbach is one of the greatest promoter for German wine worldwide, and he is also one of the top wine producer in Germany, definitely in the Mosel. And then we have two very small producers, and they are quite unknown beside Germany. Only in Oregon they are known because we have two companies who import them. So.
Yeah. Ewald's hard work over the years of introducing
exactly.
wonderful small producers to the American market.
Yeah.
And how long have you been working with these wines?
Yeah, basically Selbach, I started out with Selbach when I started the company to import wine in 1986. I talked to Selbach, and that was the first company I worked with. So I brought, I think, 13 different wines from Selbach in. That was my first shipment, only Selbach wine.
Awesome.
And then a few years later, Pazen, with the blue label here, that is my old next door neighbor. And I said, oh, Herbert, I need some of your wine. So then we started a few years later with the Pazen wine. And I forgot the vintage. There was one vintage that was very short. There was not enough wine in Germany. And I searched for more wine. And Ackermann is also a great small producer. So then I started with Ackermann. Ackermann was the last one I brought in.
Excellent. And I think we've tasted wines from all these producers on the show before, so it's great to check in on some new ones. And these just arrived in the United States too, right?
Yeah, they are all pretty new. 2010, 2011 vintage, except the last one will be from 2009.
All right, good deal. Should
we drink some?
Yep, let's do it. Let's do it. We should. What's first?
Yeah, basically the first wine is from Selbach. It said Selbach on the label, but it is an estate bottled wine from Selbach Oster. The estate basically calls Selbach Oster. And this wine here is have a brand name. It is called Blauschiefer, Blue Slate.
Very nice.
So you may know that many of the German vineyards have the village and the vineyard on the label, but this particular one has a relation to the soil that it grows in. Blue slate is very typical in the Mosel Valley. I would say most of the vineyards in the Mosel Valley have blue slate. I would say 80, 85, maybe even 90% of the vineyards in the Mosel Valley have blue slate. So this one is a wine from 2010, and it is fermented dry.
Nice, and I very much liked. I think it was the 2009 version of this. But
yeah.
Had it at Olympic Provisions is where I was introduced to it.
Yeah, it's a great food wine. So cheers.
Cheers. Yes, thank you.
Cheers.
You do get some of that like rocks and kind of like lemon peel on the nose of this, I think.
And the lemony sort of characteristics are coming out quite significantly, along with like green apple sort of flavors.
Yeah.
Very nice smelling, very gentle.
Nice crisp apple fruit on the palate, both like yellow and green, and the lemons from the nose definitely show through too. There's some really good acidity in this, and I don't know. I think the lemon flavors are a little more common in the Trocken wines. Do you think so too? Or?
Yeah, but it's interesting that you mentioned the acidity in this wine because 2010 was so amazing year. The vintage or the whole year was not the hardest, the warmest, So everything was a little bit slow. But then at the harvest time we had some beautiful sunny days. So the grapes continue ripening. It was a very late harvest, but also at the same time we had extremely cool nights. So the acidity stayed extremely high, and I talked to many winemakers, and winemakers even with older than I am, they said they never have seen a vintage like that with that high ripeness level of grapes and high acidity at the same time. So it's a very interesting combination of this fresh fruit and then also in the finish this lemony acidity.
Yeah, wow. Which is right up, perfect for some people and their
Yeah.
palates. Like I'm really happy with a lot of 2010s.
Yeah.
The feel of this wine is really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very weighty on the palate, right? Like just more substantial. Not just it's very, very nice.
Seems like a little bit of like melon flavors, kind of sitting in the center of the palate,
cantaloupe
too.
sort of thing. Yeah.
And it kind of like you said, a little bit of weight, like hanging out in the center of your tongue on the finish there, which is.
Yeah, the wine definitely have a little bit more weight than in the previous vintages, like 7 or 8 or even 9. I think this one have a little bit more body to it. So.
Right.
Yeah, and was it 2009? Is this always a Trocken wine? This has been sweeter in the past, hasn't it?
Yeah, basically I importing this wine. No, this particular wine I importing maybe for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
And I was looking for a dry wine. I mean, everything has switched a little bit more in the drier direction and so. Also in the US market, I would say. And I was looking for that wine, and Selbach sent me a sample bottle. This wine was basically only meant to be sold in Germany, but I liked it so much. I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, and I brought it in, and since then we have continued to every vintage. So
nice. And it's also boy, a very good price on this too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Really accessible, so.
There is a wine with a similar label in the fruitier style. That's basically a kind of a negotiated wine. The difference basically is when it said only Selbach, it is mostly a negotiated wine. And if it says Selbach Oster, then it comes from their own estate, so they cultivate the vineyards and so on. But as I said before, this particular one, the label was created for a customer in Germany. Very simple, just Selbach, and but it's estate bottled by Selbach Oster. It's at the back. So.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So yeah, very nice.
I like quite a bit. I mean, it's I think when you brought up the melon flavors, that sticks out a lot now that I've tasted it more. The acidity is great. Sort of tastes like, reminds me of fresh lemons, and then it's got just like a honey or something, like a beeswaxy sort of characteristic on the finish that I'm really liking. Just as it starts to roll over into the finish, really delicious, super drinkable. 89 points, like it a lot.
Very clean in the finish.
I like it, yeah. It's got that sort of like waxy, like that waxiness with the acidity just keeps it completely clean and to the point. It's nice.
Yeah, 89 for me too. And it's a hot day. I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but we're all sweating. The bottles are sweating, and so this dry wine and drinking real cleanly like that, it's really enjoyable.
Perfect.
So.
Yes, you can probably drink the whole bottle.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Yes.
So what's next?
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
All right. So now we have a wine from Ackermann. This wine is imported by Teutonic Wine Company. You may know that Teutonic Wine Company have a kind of a joint venture with the Ackermann family. They exchange experience about wine and wine production and so. This one here is a 2011, so it's the youngest wine, and the Ackermann family just was here in Oregon a little while ago, and we rushed that particular wine to the East Coast and shipped it over to have it available while the Ackermann family is here. Also, this wine here is sold in Germany only in 1 liter bottles. Many producers do 1 liter bottles in Germany, a little bit more wine for the money. And, And so 70 cases was bottled in a regular bottle for Teutonic Wine Company.
Okay.
So, special order.
Yeah, special order, exactly.
Very nice.
Smells good too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And this is kind of fun too. This is, like you said, it was a special shipment. There aren't very many 2011 Rieslings on the market at all right now. This is like kind of special case early release.
Exactly.
And for those of you in the local market or who are interested to have some of this shipped in, it's a good chance to get a taste of the vintage, early on.
Yeah.
See what you think of it.
Yeah.
How was the 2011 vintage?
Yeah. In comparison to 2010, it was a very easy vintage. 2010 was a challenge for very people because it's high acidity. Many producers didn't know how to handle it. But 2011 was just perfect, There was good production. The grapes had a nice ripeness level, not overripe, and a great balanced acidity. So everybody could make great wine in 2011.
Awesome.
So,
Nice.
That was very great.
And this smells wonderful.
Yes, nice wine, yeah, very fresh. And
This is got sort of like that just fresh honey crisp apple thing going on, right? Like it's just a juicy apple you cut in half.
A little bit of a tart crust around the outside, a little bit of peaches. Yeah, just great fruit on this.
That smells wonderful. Yeah.
I love the mouthfeel right away. There's a little bit of like a little bit of sweetness showing through, giving it a little bit of weight, but the acidity shows up right at the beginning as well. Man, they both just hang out on the palate for a long time too, but still going.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it with the peachy flavors.
Yeah.
Like it starts off sort of appley, but man, like it's just like a fresh peach as soon as it's swallowed and it's allowed to like go along the cheeks and stuff. It's,
Yeah,
that's delicious.
Yeah,
that's really quite good.
Very well made wine. If you look at the label, it says Zeltinger Himmelreich, and so Zeltingen, my hometown, Zeltingen Achtig, have basically 4 different vineyards. Himmelreich is the largest section or the largest vineyard from all of them. It's mostly a west-facing mountain, and so it is not the hardest area, it's not the steepest area, but it produces always wine with good body, have a little bit deeper soil, and later on we moved to other wines with different soil. But Zeltinger Himmelreich is definitely the most popular wine, the most produced wine in Zeltingen. It's always a great value wine, and so Zeltinger Himmelreich, Kingdom of Heaven.
Excellent.
That's what it means.
A very grand name for a delicious wine.
Yeah.
I talk about the texture of acidity from time to time. This is a really good example of that, where it's just lively and you got kind of like stony and sparkly at the same time. It just feels like impeccably clean, right? It brings clarity to the fruit. It keeps it just a little bit of dryness on the palate. It's delicious.
Yeah. And this wine, the first wine, is a great wine to serve with food, with dishes and so. But this wine, is also a great aperitif wine. When you sit down before you have dinner, it's so refreshing. It makes the acidity makes you a little bit hungry, and so the sweetness is not too dominant.
The sweetness is perfect. Yeah. The sweetness, and like you were saying with the balance, like it's got very balanced acidity. The acidity does a great job of keeping the sweetness in check here, and just keeps things so fresh.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. Type of Riesling. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and then when you have some salty dishes or spicy food, it goes also with this dishes very well.
Thai curry, spicy Thai curry with this sort of Riesling is like one of my favorite pairings ever. Yeah. It's just so good. And yeah, this is the sort of Riesling that makes me smile every time you drink it, right? And it's one of those wines like that can do that. I'm going to go 91 points on it. I like it a lot. The acidity is just right in line with what I like in good Riesling. Like it's not too much. And I tend to have a problem with like really strong acidity. This is perfect. Really good.
And it's 91 for me because I think the way the flavors linger, the way the flavors sit in the center of my tongue and go through a little bit of evolution even after you swallow, kind of makes it special to me. And I think it comes in real nice. This is really solid wine. So just keep an eye out for it.
How much is that wine on the retail market?
It's very affordable, this wine. It depends, I would say it is around between 15 and $50. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
very affordable wine.
$14 or $15. Yeah. So one of the cheapest ones, one of the cheapest German Rieslings you can find on the market right now.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Estate bottle, single vineyard wine.
Mind blowing. Yeah.
70 cases came to.
Look for it.
It's small family estate, right? This isn't cheap because they've got big machines doing everything, and this is just a great deal.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know the total production, but there's definitely not more than 300 cases of this wine. I would say around 200, 250 cases.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So.
And drinking great, so young. Awesome. All right.
So, then we are coming to Herbert Pazen, my old next door neighbor. Basically, the Pazen family and my family cultivated our small vineyards together. That is an estate with 2.5 acres.
Wow.
So Pazen is not a full-time producer.
Wow.
So you cannot make a living even in Germany with 2.5 acres of vineyards. And he's a lucky guy. He have one of the few vineyards in the Zeltinger Deutschherrenberg. That is basically the very smallest vineyard, a small section just across the river, from all the other vineyards. That is the east-facing mountain. So it's exactly the opposite, like the Zeltinger Himmelreich. West-facing, here you have an east-facing vineyard, and it is right next to the Örziger Würzgarten.
Oh yes.
And
one we like.
Yeah, exactly, one you like. Örziger Würzgarten with a very unique red shale soil that gives the wine a little bit spiciness, and the soil comes also a little bit in that section also.
Cool.
It is not as red as in Ötzig anymore, because now it turns into blue, but it's still a little bit mixture, blue slate and red soil. So, Zeltinger Deutschherrenberg. And this wine is also from 2010. And I have to say, this is the first time Pazen makes a Zeltinger Deutschherrenberg Spatlese. So
Okay,
this one is a
alright.
later picking. Normally, the vineyard was replanted around 10 years ago. And normally he used this wine as a kind of a Qualitätswein or sometimes a cabinet. You know, he never made a Spatlese. And but in 2010 everything was so ripe and you know it's a nice balanced acidity. And he said, "Wow, I mean this wine is so beautiful. I have to bottle it as a Spatlese." So
Nice.
so most of the Pazen Spatlese that I bring in come also from the Zeltinger Himmelreich, the same what we had before from Ackermann.
Sure.
So this is a very unique wine, and I don't know I mentioned it, but 2010 had also an extreme small production. It was only for some producer a quarter or a third of the normal year production,
Yeah.
and
Really low.
Pazen made only 50 cases of this wine.
Wow.
So and we brought 35 into Oregon. The rest of it he sold in Germany. So.
Oh, that's a nice treat to have. So this isn't even widely distributed even in Portland, right? There's only a few shops that
Exactly,
have it, right?
yeah, exactly. And that we're just getting in. So.
Really, I'm getting just like maybe like a little hint of like that sort of botrytis-y thing coming on the nose. It's like the faintest hint of it, right? You're starting to get a little bit of those aromas, or maybe just like
See, I would go with more with some of the melon thing again for
Okay.
me, but I can kind of see that.
yeah,
Maybe
I mean,
only in the north.
just in the nose, yeah, just a touch of it. And I like that sort of aroma
Yeah, yeah.
when I can get to these wines that have some of it.
A little bit of white floral and some lemon lime stuff going in.
But yeah, there's still very good fruit here.
Wow.
That just feels elegant and awesome. So good.
The evolution across the palate on this is just fantastic. It starts out with those lemon limes right early on. You get that good acidity touching down on the palate immediately. Blooms in just incredible peaches and pears, and not like the canned stuff in the syrup either, right? Just like
Yeah.
really fresh, perfectly ripe fruit. Man,
Yeah, it would have been a shame if it would be bottled as a normal Qualitätswein. I mean, even it's only a small quantity available, you know, 50 cases or 35 cases in Oregon. I mean, it's beautiful to have it as a Spatlese.
Absolutely. And I want to say I've had wines from this producer before, but it's always been like the lower level wines, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That I've seen around town. And yeah, this is the best wine that I've had from this producer ever.
Yeah.
This is very good.
I think I agree, and I've had quite a few from him. But man, this is really
Yeah.
This is a large step above stuff that I've had
drinking
from
so
before.
well right now
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, this soil in this particular vineyard is very unique. You know, it gives the wine a little bit spiciness, and I mean it is an east-facing mountain, as I said, so it has mostly only the morning sun. So it's not a very warm site, you know. But in 2010 you had this extreme long ripening season, you know, so the grapes getting riper and riper, and then you get all this minerality, you know, from this red shale soil. I mean, it's just a beautiful wine. So.
Yeah, there is that hint of spice, and on the end I'm just getting like perfectly ripe pineapple lingering
go.
on the palate.
I was
And it
trying
lasts-
to think of what that was.
It's lasting over a minute. As you're sitting here talking about it, it's just delicious. This is something like you can sit and enjoy and think about, sip after sip, and it dries out the palate enough for like reaching for the next glass.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the heat or if this is just everything my body wants right now. But this
Yeah,
is
exactly. This is-
awesome. Yeah, this is delicious Riesling. I think Dan pretty much nailed it with the description and the fresh pineapple on the finish is totally what I was tasting. It's like the acidity's not like any sort of other citrus. It's like something like melony, but it's not that either. It's totally just fresh pineapple. I'm gonna go 92 plus on it. I like it.
93 for me.
Easily the best wine I've had from this producer, I would say. Normally, I find this producer's wines sort of mid-range, like 85s, 87s, 89s. This is a large step above this producer's normal stuff. Awesome.
Yeah. As a young wine, right now we have also Zeltinger Himmelreich available.
Okay.
And that is from the 2009 vintage, but have a little bit more age, it's a little bit more compact and so at that time. But this particular wine, I mean, it's really, as a young wine, it's beautiful.
It is absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
We got dogs.
No cats this week, so we got.
Yeah.
Got some different animals.
Usually it's the
playing
cat's
along.
causing a ruckus. So what's our last
He
one?
wants some Riesling too.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
he does.
Oh.
Get to drinking.
So, and now we're coming to Selbach Oster. So this one is also from the same estate like the first one, also estate bottle Selbach Oster. And we're moving to 2009, so we have quite a range on vintages here.
Absolutely.
And 2009 was also very ripe vintage, you know, not as high acidity than 2010, so good balanced acidity. So this one here is a Riesling Auslese, so made from selected bunches of grapes, and it comes from the Zeltinger Schlossberg, the castle mountain.
Dan talks highly of this vineyard.
Yep, this is one of my favorite vineyards. One of my favorite vineyards in the world, and I think, you know, stuff from here is as good as any other vineyard in the Mosel. Like, you hear of others that are more famous, but I've had stuff from here that I think it just brings what I love in German Riesling.
Exactly. Zeltinger Schlossberg is an extreme steep mountain. I mean, there's cliffs in the mountain, and you know, it's all blue slate. The only thing is, you know, in Zeltingen, the highest rated vineyard is the Zeltinger Sonnenur, the Sandal vineyard, but it's a smaller section closer to the river. And but I'm with you, you know, the Zeltinger Schlossberg is just a little bit more rough, you know. It's not always so elegant, you know. It is to have a little bit more this minerality, you know, because you have vineyards in lower elevation, higher elevation, you know. Not all of them are totally south facing, and you know, so this is really a great vineyard, you know, and it's the best expression of the blue slate and the minerality. So. You get a bit age to it, huh? So, yeah, it's beautiful.
A lot of richness coming through on the nose right away. I'm getting kind of like some orange peels a little bit. Maybe even a little bit of ginger.
Like a little bit of pie or cake frosting too. Just a hint of it. The sweetness is coming off on the nose.
A little bit of rhubarb too. Some of that acidity is showing on the nose. It's like some tart rhubarb.
That smells wonderful.
So you like the Riesling out of the special designed Riesling glasses, or you like the bigger bowls? Huh?
Boy, I usually use the normal Riedel Riesling glasses. This is the first time I've tried these. This is the Sommelier series, I guess, which is nice. Although, right, just last night we were drinking it out of the Oregon Pinot Noir glass, and it was. So I think the basic Riedel Riesling glass is still my favorite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, this one should be the perfect thing for Riesling, you know. But I think, you know, the bigger glass goes also very well for Riesling. So it gives a little bit better expression of the terroir. Here, everything is a little bit more.
And I think when you get in high quality wines, I think you're losing a little. You lose a little of the distinction between better and worse. You're just seeing different aspects of it, right? When you have a really great nose, or you have really great acidity on the front or the back end of the palate, you're just kind of like looking at it in different ways through different glasses.
Yeah.
So.
This rules. I'll just say that straight off.
And it's really
go ahead.
It's really cool thing about their estate. For despite the fact that Johannes travels the world to promote the wine, he's still very involved in the viticulture and is always thinking about how are the grapes doing, like how are the vines doing. And you know, when I got to talk to him, he can always say like, oh yeah, like that my parcel in this vineyard is good for these reasons. It's got just this much exposure. It's in kind of a little nook that keeps more heat, or the soil's like this. He's very involved with the whole process. So it's really like a very personal creation.
Did you go to the cellar?
I didn't. So he was traveling most of the time, so I didn't get to taste there this last time. But.
I mean, you saw that small house, you know, right on the river, you know, and the cellar is just below that house, you know. It goes basically all the way back, almost in the vineyard in the mountain. I mean, you know,
it's that long?
It's a very long cellar. I mean,
that's great.
Yeah. I mean, the house looks so small in front, you know, but the cellar is totally long, you know. So,
it's what's important, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mind if I pour myself a little more?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and
that went down too easy. Yeah.
And another interesting thing is, you know, like many producers, you know, many also Selbach in the past, he had stainless steel tanks, you know, but he's also one of these producers who went totally back to oak barrels again. You know,
oh, really?
He ferments almost all the wines, maybe with a few exceptions of the dry wines. All the wines are fermented with the natural yeast now. And so that is, it's a kind of really a change in the last, I would say, 5-6 years and so.
Neutral barrels.
Neutral.
Yeah, for those of you watching, you might be surprised, like, oh, Riesling, oh yeah, this is not new French oak. These are
no.
20-year-old barrels with, yeah.
The big oak barrels or single, like the normal size oak barrels?
No, 1,000 liters. So that's the size of, I mean, that's the traditional barrel in the Mosel Valley. It's a size of 4 barriques, what you have here for Pinot.
All right.
Wow.
And if the, have a new barrel, I mean, sometimes you need to produce a new barrel, you put water in to get all the oak flavor out. So you don't want to have the oak flavor in the Riesling. Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
Because Riesling is a very delicate wine, even in the higher ripeness level like Auslese, it gets this best expression of the soil, of the terroir, and so you don't want to cover that with oak. So it has to be a neutral barrel, but these producers who ferment with the natural yeast, they going back to the oak barrels because it have a better contact with the air and so on. Still, it's a little bit too isolated and so on.
Understand? Yeah, there is some what do they call it? It's almost like some reduction that happens inside the barrel. Like oxygen, it basically evaporates partially through the oak barrel, right? Yeah. So, and then also I tend to notice like some neutral oaked whites that you'll see in Oregon tend to be just a little rounder and a little softer, whereas sometimes the stainless steel can impart some. Just a hint of harshness sometimes with the acidity, and
But it's in certain wines also very good, But when you have a wine with a little bit more body,
I love that. Yeah. So. And with Auslese, a little bit more concentration isn't going to hurt it, right? I mean, it's at that level. And man, this is just stunning wine. This is really good.
The acidity starts dancing on the tip of your tongue right away, and it keeps this lively sensation there. All the way across the palate, like long into the finish, which is, I think, the first time I've really experienced that. That's kind of fun. And you get these great fruit flavors showing in both in the middle and back end, and there's this long, slow drying process, which I've become really fond of, and especially in Rieslings that have a little age, like a lot of Christoffel stuff, I think, seem to show this like really slow drying process where the acidity just comes more intense little by little, but this rich fruit sticks around, your mouth waters. A lot going on.
Yeah, a lot of people think, Auslese is always so sweet and so. I mean, there is some fresh fruit flavors in the beginning, but gives you an expression of sweetness. But I think the acidity is so nice, And when you have it with the right food, salty dishes, spicy food or curry dishes,
this would be perfect.
Is great.
The sugar is just a little more, but the acidity is just so gentle and just sort of lifts everything up as you swallow it. It's just.
Have a little sip?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The flavors for me are more to the like fresh apple side, but just covered in honey. I mean, and not like I guess not that much intensity, but there's just so much like honeyed fruit flavor here, and just add. It's really delicious. It's almost hard to describe. I'm trying to go into specific descriptors, but it doesn't really give it. I can't give it its due of what it actually is. It is much more substantial than what I'm actually saying.
the words are hard.
The words are hard. Yeah, a 93 plus for me. A wonderful wine. Absolutely wonderful.
Man, we're right. I'm really surprised. I thought there'd be a little more difference on this, but yeah, I'm a 93 plus too. So like, right down to fine detail, we're really enjoying these kind of in the same way. But man, fantastic wines, and I really can't say enough about how awesome all of these people are too. Like these are great people to support. We've got a good range of prices here, and just great chance to experience some of the best stuff that the wines around Zeltingen have to offer.
Yeah, and the other thing is, these wines you can put away for 10, 15 years, or even the Auslese for 30 years, and they're changing, but they're getting more interesting each year. So.
And another, for those of you who don't have like really nice wine cellars, I found out from him that this stuff is a little more resistant to suboptimal storage conditions, right? Like if you like keep it in your basement where it's just kind of temperature controlled, or you're leaving it in the living room window in the sun is not going to help anybody. But they're a lot more resilient than a bottle of Pinot Noir.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the perfect condition is always cool and dark and don't move it at all, but even if you don't have that condition, Riesling is very hard to destroy. I mean, even if it is not stored perfectly and you open it after 15, 20 years, it's still very beautiful. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. One thing I like to also point out to people is that with Riesling, it's unlike other places like in Burgundy or Bordeaux, where you have to worry about a drinking window. With these wines, you don't, right?
No.
But you buy a case, drink one right away, maybe drink four right away. It's that good because it'll be, you can track it. There's literally no drinking window with these wines, right? Like you can start whenever.
You don't need to wait. Yeah.
You don't need to wait.
And I want to make a pitch too for these smaller producers. Like it's really good to support them, and the Zeltbach stuff too, even from the vineyards you like, because like we were talking about, these are steep vineyards. In old vineyards, people have been growing grapes here for hundreds of years, right?
Yes,
right.
yes,
And so it takes a lot of work to work these vineyards. And when people go out of business, often like they're not bought up again, they go fallow, and these vineyards are just lost, or they're bought up by bulk companies and get turned into $3 bulk wine. That
the pulp blue dot.
Yeah, that doesn't pay enough money to support the farmers. That doesn't take care of the land. And that is not like a really good expression of the grapes out there. So,
True.
You know, given the chance, if you see the stuff on the shelves, like support these guys. I know Portland values that stuff. At least I think if you're watching this, that probably matters to you. So, yeah, good pitch for that.
Thank you very much.
So, yeah, I guess
That's pretty much it. Question of the day.
Final question. Any questions you want to ask the audience?
Oh,
I forgot to tell you beforehand. I'm sorry.
You've done this before.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
For me, so I got one. So for me, Selbach Oster was my first like Riesling epiphany, thanks to Dan. Grocker Himmelreich.
2006 Spatlese.
Oh my goodness, just knocked my socks off. It was so good.
It's still
And
good. Yeah.
It's still a wonderful wine. Yes. So what was your Riesling? If you love Riesling, what was the Riesling that knocked your socks off and made you a Riesling lover? So
Nice.
Great.
Thanks for watching.
see you guys
Thank you.
next
Thanks
time.
for coming in.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.